to us, we are going to do things to you that have never been done before.
We the people tell the government what to do. It doesn't tell us. We the people are the driver. The government is the car. And we decide where it should go and by what route to do. We the people are free. And I hope we have once again reminded people that man is not free unless government is limited.
Oh, there we are, folks. I'll try and bring myself up to a reasonable size, shall I? That wasn't the one to do it. Maybe that one is. There you go. Still don't know which one of these things does what, but we'll figure it out eventually. How are you? Hope your weekend was going all right. I've had a couple of failures, throat being one of them. Pardon me. We'll see how long it lasts tonight. But the other failure I've had has been a computer-related failure. So I'm running on an old laptop, which doesn't run quite as fast as the other laptop. And I've got none of the other programs that were on the other laptop. So this has been an interesting learning curve trying to get back into this thing and make it work. But it has been a bit of fun. What can I say? Let's go into the chat and just see who's who in the room tonight. Paul was first in like Flynn. Good on you, mate. Silver Fox, yes. It does appear that things are happening. We'll get to that in a minute. Hello, Katrina. You're upset today because your new granddaughter, 7 months old, has been vaccinated. I'm very sorry to hear that for you. I hope it goes okay. That's all we can do. The gorgeous Sandy K is in the house. Massive unexpected storm last night, lasted about 8 hours. Wow, okay, 55 mil and back to flooded paddocks again. That ain't no fun. We'll have our favourite donkeys back under the shed, no doubt. Bit fun. They do seem to be playing with the storms at the moment. Weather is very strange, says Katrina. Trump said it was going to get cooler the other day. I'm sure he was talking about climate change. Well, possibly, but he might also be talking about the Northern Hemisphere. It's about to go into winter there, so they're going to get cooler all over. How much cooler remains to be seen. What the? Remember when babies were being born with the small limbs? That was thalidomide. Took years to figure out that one. That's true. They did keep that up for quite some time from memory. I think it was mainly done through an Adelaide hospital from memory. What the? Here's your story about why you're in hospital. You had an arterial bypass in April, and it came undone 6 weeks ago while you were backfilling a trench. Yes. Well, I have been cautioned by Rachel, and I have received multiple emails. I don't know if I can get this thing up. So people asking me how my thing is going. My thing is going very well. Thank you very much. I must have upset a few people on Friday night because I got a heap of emails from nurses, God love you all, saying, Carl, change that bandage, change that thing. It's not good. It's been oozing and it's not healthy and yada, 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 yada. Yes, okay, no worries. So first thing Saturday morning, I went in and got some of those nano-filled bloody wrap things that you put on your arm to stop bleeding. Mind you, I've stopped bleeding. I'm not a bleeder. Touch wood, thank Lord. I heal up very, very quickly generally, and particularly for things like stitches. I once had 24 stitches put in this eyebrow. Or was it this eyebrow? It might have been this eyebrow. No, it wasn't a fight. It was the result of me falling down a set of stairs and winding up head first into a very solid brick wall and splitting all my eye open. When I woke up, don't know how long I was unconscious for, but I expect some time, judging by the pool of blood that was at the bottom of those stairs. It was in Adelaide at the time, and I was living with a wonderful bunch of people, including a police detective. When I got out of the hole, I walked up to our bathroom, turned the light on, and saw that half my face was peeling away. And I'd been out drinking, funnily enough, with one of the blokes that lived in the house, fellow, my best mate. Hello, Dennis. He'll remember the night well. I woke him up again by calling his name rather loudly a few times. Woke the whole house, as it turned out. He took one look at my face, asked me if I'd been in a fight, and I said, well, no, I came home with you. Did we have a fight? And he said, no. I said, well, I don't know what happened to me. So he gave me $10 and called a cab. That was very nice of him. So the cab took me to the hospital and they stitched my face back together. And 24 stitches later, I got home the next afternoon, and not only did I have to clean up the blood that I'd left in the carpet at the bottom of those stairs, but the copper had put a chalk outline where my body must have been. It was very funny at the time. Anyway, I cut those 24 stitches out maybe a little earlier than they were due to come out because, well, like I say, I heal quickly. So I didn't feel the urge to leave them in there any longer than was required, if you know what I mean. So anyway, Rachel has convinced me that I am not to remove my stitches before the 7 to 10 days that the doctor said. Fingers crossed. I am trying to wake wakey chaos. I am trying to do it. Shall we get on to talking about what is the happiest part of the day? If you happen to own a bit of silver, you've got to be happy. Now, I did say late last week that I'd be amazed if it didn't hit 66. I was pretty sure before the weekend. Said it might drop back a bit and then jump again on Monday. Well, turned out it did do that. And in fact, today it's been through $67 per ounce. And right now, through Ainsley Bullion, it is 66.7 with gold at $5,704.37. Now, the interesting thing in all of this is the gold-silver ratio. It's down 85.5 and continuing to drop. That's what we want to see, the gold-silver ratio coming down. That will be bringing silver up to a form of parity with gold. Now, Ainsley Bullion today have released what I think is a very, very good analysis of what is going along. You can get the Ainsley newsletter. You can just get it delivered to you by signing up. It's free. Or you can go to ainsleyBullion.com.au and click on the news, and you'll see all of the articles that have been put out today, a lot of them surrounding silver. But one of them in particular is suggesting and giving very solid reasons why this time the bounce with silver could keep going. And it's not showing signs of going backwards. We're not saying it's going to jump up, to $100 tomorrow or the next day or in a week's time. But they are saying that there is continued pressure on the market at the moment. And because silver has always been both an industrial and a monetary metal, the pressure on it is significant. More significantly, the pressure on it to expand is greater than the suppression on it to keep it at very low levels, which is, as we know, where many of these deep, dark corporations hide their losses in the stock market. If you are still involved with the stock market, well, God love you. You've got bigger cojones than I do. I wouldn't be sticking anything in there at the moment. And if I had large cash reserves at the moment, I wouldn't be hoping to get much out of the bank. If the market crashes, the banks will go with them. Bear that in mind. And there is a little bit of external pressure now happening on the Australian banking market with the US Fed lowering their interest rates, which I think are at around 4.35%. And that was about as high as we got ours, I think, before the Fed started, or our Reserve Bank started lowering ours. Might have been a bit higher. So that has caused a bit of pressure on the market yesterday and today, the gold and silver market, particularly because investors go where when this kind of shit happens? They go to what always retains value, gold and silver, precious metals, even platinum at the moment. Now, I don't know. I wish I had bought some platinum a little while ago because right now it's at $2,182, nearly $83 per ounce. And when I first started looking at it, I want to say it was under $1,000. Like it was about $700 an ounce. And I like the shiny silver stuff. Couldn't afford the gold. Perceived I couldn't afford the platinum. Turns out, if I'd have saved a little bit more, I might have been able to get a little bit of platinum, and look what it's doing. So I urge you folks, if you do have cash reserves, get it out of the banks, put it into something tangible, something you can hold on to and keep close to you, something government cannot remove from you with an act and with an act of parliament or just a swish of a pen from somebody in an administrative position in a bank. The bastards. Please, folks, don't forget to like and share. And if you are watching this show afterwards, leave a comment. We're always happy to hear your comments and thoughts. And I know of late there have been a lot of comments, and some of them have been fairly scathing in my, I say, support of Beck Freedom and her March for Australia. Now, I'm unsure if some of these scathing comments are just from numpties who really don't understand what the argument is, or certainly don't understand my position in it. And without getting into it too deeply, while I really enjoy your comments, some of them can be very, very abusive, and it shows you that, or shows me at least, that you are not capable of having a reasonable debate. You're not capable of putting forward a reasonable argument, and therefore I don't really interact with those ones. But if you are capable of putting forward a good argument, then I will, and quite often do, interact. Very happy to have a chat with you at any time if you've got an opposing position. Don't ever think that I'm not. And please don't think that I am locked into my position. I think that's what many of us suffer from. We suffer from being locked into a position, be that because, we were programmed that way by our parents. Think, oh, my dad voted Labor, so I've got to vote Labor. That kind of programming. And we get it in so many other ways, and in, well, so many other ways. I think that's about the best way of describing it. So we've got to try and push back against that a little bit, and not become abusive. See if you can put forward a good, well thought out, reasoned counter perspective. That's great. That's what we want. I certainly do not believe I get things right, or I am the all-knowing oracle, and that everything that comes out of my mouth is, 100% gold. I'm telling you, in a lot of cases, what I'm interpreting, and in some cases, what I'm hearing, and in some cases, what I'm directly being shown. But that in many cases, as it is with everybody, we have no white hat interaction, so to speak. There are those among us that say they do, and if they do, they do. Certainly, I've been able to chat with 107, and I have his number. I can send him texts, but getting him on the show proves very difficult, be that because he's an extremely busy man, or he is trying to limit the amount of shows that he talks to in Australia, and I don't want to pinch him off Beck in any way, shape or form. Becky O from Truth Seekers has been a big part of what 107 has been doing since 107's been doing it. So I'm just keen to get a few ideas past him, because in league with Truth Seekers, I'll tell you that there is a few things happening in the background, and we're very keen to bring you some new and exciting things next year. In fact, some of it may even happen before then if Doris can. Well, I was going to take the piss out of Doris there. That's unfair. Doris is flat out trying to save her house at the moment, so it's unfair of me to try and say, "Come on, Doris, be a bit more proactive. You do what you got to do, Doris darling, and we'll get around to what we've got to do when we can. It's all good." Yeah, Paul. Well, a lot of people are saying there are no white hats. We are the white hats. I've been saying that forever. And it finally seems or appears that in certain countries, they're heeding that message. They're fighting back against their corrupt governments, France being one of them. I don't know how Macron still sits there and looks so comfortable with his husband-wife thing, whatever it is, sitting, scratching its nuts beside him. That's a Very weird situation in France, but they have a very weird election system. They did sack the government recently, which is great, but they've left the president, the head of the snake, in charge. Now, there is a woman named Marie Le Pen in France who has got a very large following from the right. She has been stopped from entering Parliament in the last two French elections. One of them, I say, she won, and then through a second election, she lost, quite surprisingly, so that Macron could continue and do what he has been doing, or having done to him what is being done. I think that's probably a better way of explaining that. Sorry, Cashew, I just saw your thing. I have my super, but I also have my gold. I'd be putting all my super into my gold if I were you. In fact, I am so hopeful because I can't get mine out until December, right? But I am so hopeful that whatever happens doesn't crash before December, because while I have some super, I have less than $30,000 in super. And it's not going to go far. But if I can get it out in December, you know damn well what I'll be doing with it. And I'm just concerned that it's not going to be there by December. Things are really starting to hot up globally, not just in world markets. We are seeing Israel increasingly coming out and being much more forceful in its resolve to get what it wants out of Gaza. And to that end, we have seen some leaked videos of senior military and senior religious figures in Israel discussing the plan of how they are going to decimate Gaza, make it absolutely unlivable. And when they've finished in Gaza, they're going to do that to the West Bank as well. They have plans, big plans for developments all through there, and you can be guaranteed that a feature of that development will be a very large canal. Just saying. There is also a lot of talk about trumpets. Now, I think it's Rosh Hashanah or something like that, which happens on the 24th of September. Now, usually this is heralded by horns or trumpets within Jewish households and within Jewish synagogues. This is usually a private ceremony where a horn is blown, or maybe a couple of horns or a number of horns, I don't know. But tomorrow signifies a big change. Now, this will happen probably day after tomorrow, our time, but in Israel on the 24th of September, there's going to be a ceremony. They're planned to be something like 1,000 trumpets, 1,000 horns. This plays out in line with some of their teachings and is a precursor to the building of the new temple. There have been various stories of the red heifer already being sacrificed, and that has been kept away from Western media, if you like, and not allowed to be spoken about or known about at this time. So for those people who might be looking at me and saying, so the hell what does all this mean? Well, these events are in line with certain teachings within the Zionist side of the Jewish religions. The Talmud teaches a lot of different ways to approach we, the Goyim, than the Torah does. It is a very different kind of Bible, or a different kind of book. And the Talmud is the book of the Zionists. They would be happy to clear us all out, have no fear. So watch what happens throughout Israel, and I suspect further afield. I believe that this horns, this trumpets, this heralding will happen around the world, and we will start to hear of public displays, maybe, of horns coming out and being played in public areas. There might be just a bunch of Jewish kids walking around with their trumpets who just stand on a street corner and start blurting this stuff out. We will see. But it will be interesting to see if that continues and whereabouts in the world it happens. It'll be it will be another sign that I've got to be careful what I say here. It'll be another sign to help expose the Jews, I think, and their greater, broader plans, which isn't so flash. Speaking of Jews, Rukshan has been at the Wailing Wall. He and Avia, I don't know if they're still there, but they're doing a tour of Israel on the way back from their Tommy Robinson excursion in the UK. They didn't want to be here for any of the events that were happening in Australia, but good luck to them. They went and saw Tommy, and there's a few question marks over Tommy too, and Zionism and associated other entities that he may or may not be associated with. And it was just interesting to see how close they got. It was also interesting to see the reception that Avi in particular got. He was already known in certain sections there clearly. Well, they didn't make a secret of how they felt about him, put it that way. All right, what else have we got here to have a little bit of a natter about tonight? Kmart, they're in a bit of shit. Their facial recognition tech has been deemed too good. They have been using it in a variety of ways that the Privacy Commissioner has deemed to be unlawful. So what does that mean? Well, it means that Kmart and all the other companies that are in the same group, owned by the same group, owned by Vanguard, I think, from memory. So I'm not sure if it's Kmart, Big W, Bunnings used to be owned by the same group too, I want to say. At any rate, they've all got the same sort of cameras, facial recognition gear in their shops. So will this spread further afield? Who knows? But rest assured, if you are walking into any major business these days, they are even minor businesses. I'll tell you an experience I had at the local IGA. A couple of months ago, it was a freezing cold morning, and I went in to pick something up, and I was only going to pick up a couple of things, so I didn't bother picking up a basket. Anyway, you know how it works. You walk around the aisles, you pick up a couple of things, and I wound up putting something in my pocket. It was butter in my pocket of my jacket that I was wearing. Paid for everything, left. The next day I've come in, and one of the girls has approached me, and she said, you took some butter yesterday. And as soon as she said it, I recognized that it was in my pocket. I remembered it. And I was horrified, mortified about it. But she said, oh, no, we've got these new facial recognition cameras. So it spotted what you did. And we looked at it, and we know we know you weren't going to steal it. But she said it alerted me again this morning when you walked in the store. So that's why I knew you were here. I could come over and see you. That's how good it is. So, and that's just in a little IGA stuck out in the middle of the Gold Coast hinterland. It's, not a lot of fun. All right, here's an interesting one. Now, a senior cop in New South Wales who lied in an NRL star's rape trial has avoided jail. You're not going to believe why. He lied. He perjured himself in a court of law and impacted a young man's life significantly because he had PTSD. No conviction recorded. Away with you. I hope that young NRL star has a go at this bloke through the civil system, because the pain and anxiety that must have been caused by the lies that New South Wales policeman told must have had a huge impact on this young fella's life, and quite possibly is still impacting his life. So good luck to you, young bloke. I hope you go and give that a bit of a go. All right, people in Victoria, God, I feel for you so much. Brett Sutton is back in the news. Now, this is a lesser headline than the previous ones I've seen. Sutton says we gave useless orders. Well, more than that, Brett Sutton, who was in charge of health in Victoria at the time, and he was the lead runner on all things jab and lockdown related for Australia. All right. It was his lies that all the other health officers fed off. And now he's just saying, well, maybe we got it wrong. Maybe we went a bit hard. Maybe the touching of elbows was a bit stupid. Maybe the distancing was a bit stupid. Maybe locking people down at night was, a bit over the top. But I don't think the people of Victoria had let it happen again. All right. So by that logic, what do you think the people of Victoria are going to do? Because they pushed back pretty fucking hard last time. So do you suggest that next time they're just going to have to start hanging the health minister or the health officer or whoever the hell Brett Sutton? Well, maybe they could find Brett Sutton and hang him for the idiocy that they're trying to push. I'd like to know what Brett Sutton's doing now and how much money he's making. Because you can be damn sure he'll be employed in a corporation job these days. Did you know that Papua New Guinea's military is now almost totally 100% integrated with the Australian Defence Forces? Now, this probably isn't a bad thing. However, every Papua New Guinean Defence Force person who joins gets full access to Australian citizenship. And I don't mind that because they're fighting for their country. They're going to fight for ours. And let's face it, New Guinea is a couple of cricket pitches off the tip of the northern end of Australia. So we could probably do with a little more involvement on their land. And we certainly are having it at the moment. There is a multi-level task force that's up in New Guinea at the moment, and they're all looking, I think, ready to come home. They've been up there 3 weeks or so. There's a couple of very big Air Force aircraft up there and a couple of very small Air Force aircraft up there and all the crews to support them. They're doing, I don't know what they're doing, to be honest. But to have such small aircraft, they're going into some of those really little regional strips that New Guinea is known for. So, and New Guinea was also an area that we have done a lot of jungle training in. Although we have the Kokoda barracks here in Queensland, which is essentially jungle warfare, or it used to be jungle warfare. And God knows anybody who comes up from the southern states would probably find it very jungle-like. It is rainforest. But it's not really humid like a jungle is until you get into the summer parts of the year. Whereas in New Guinea, it's like that all year round, and you got to deal with a whole heap of other issues too. Bearing in mind that some of the training, particularly for our SAS, was done in New Guinea, where they crossed the border into Western Papua and surveilled Indonesians doing atrocious things to the West Papuans. So one of the big conflicts that I think many of those SAS operatives had was not being able to do anything about it. And a lot of them have come home and suffered real PTSD from having to witness some of the atrocities that Indonesia has committed against the West Papuans. But at any rate, we're going to see a lot more New Guineans, and we actually have a colonel who's in charge of an entire Australian battalion at the moment from New Guinea. So they're certainly doing the whole integration thing quite well. People in New South Wales, I don't know what you're going to do for your meat now. I really don't know what you're going to do for your meat. The New South Wales government has delivered a world-first foot and mouth mRNA vaccine to protect livestock industries and the food supply, because foot and mouth is such a prevalent disease in Australia, isn't it? When was the last time you heard of a foot and mouth outbreak? But I'm not saying it can't happen. All right. The vaccine's taken 18 months to develop. Oh, they've put a lot of effort into that. And it's cost about $2.5 million. Of course, the project's worth $20 million and then some, because, well, if you're going to start putting it into the current living stock, then you're going to keep jamming it into the ones that come along as they breed. I think we're going to have a lot of problems with our food supply coming up, folks. If you can get clean meat and get access to it, please do. And I don't know that I've downloaded a picture of it, but let me... I don't know that I can download a picture of it because I can't see it. That's a bit better. Let me see if I can find a picture that will maybe make this a little betterer. I thought I had it. I don't have it. Anyway, in South Australia, there is a paddock to plate business. I would be looking into that. And Pete from Pinaroo can tell us more details about that one. I don't think mustn't have saved it into my downloads folder. So I apologize. I'll have to do that next time around. Malcolm Roberts. Well, I've got to say I like Malcolm Roberts, and he really does, I believe, at least have a voice that stands up and tries to fight. Whether or not he's of any great value in that place is yet to be seen, but I do like the way that he calls them out. No one believes the scaremongering anymore. No one believes the oceans are going to boil. No one believes it'll be fixed if everyone just pays more tax than ever before. You net zero zealots pushed it too far. The game is over, whether you realize it or not. And I think he's 100% right. Common sense has to shine through eventually. Now that they've agreed that dimming, that is, they're spraying shit into our atmosphere to stop the sunlight coming through. At the same time, they are funding billions of dollars in solar power development. Now, last I heard, the sun was a pretty integral part of making a solar development work. I nearly said profitable. Ha! They're not ever going to be profitable. Well, they will be for the people who run them. But the people of Australia, you and your electricity bill are about to get stretched wider than, well, certain things you would like to have stretched very wide. And I think the next increase is only days, weeks away. Albo was asked about that, I think, before he jetted off to a big meeting in New York, and he dodged the question. Yep, that's our Albanese. Oh, go and check the modelling, he says. When will Australians pay less for electricity, Mr. Prime Minister? Oh, go and check the modelling, he says. Yeah. Check the modelling, he says. Yeah. So Donald Trump today stiffed Albo beautifully. Albanese flew to New York, and in the hours prior to the time he was meant to catch up with Trump, asserted in the UN Australia's position on Palestine and recognizing the Palestinian state, something that Trump and Israel are very much against. Now, I don't know what he thought was going to happen. I don't know that he thought Trump would just say, oh, it's all right, mate, come and meet me anyway. That clearly isn't on the cards. There might be a they call it a pull-aside. There is a meeting or a dinner that will happen. I think it's tomorrow, our time, tonight, their time. And at a meeting like that, then you might be pulled aside for a couple of minutes with the president to have a quick chat. It's the lowest form of meet that you ever get with Trump. Now, if Albanese is to get one of those, I would say he's in for a hell of a dressing down. We would love to see Trump do to Albanese what he did to Cyril Ramaphosa of South Africa, where he pointed out in excruciating detail the lies and the deceit that the government was responsible for. And we've played some of it here. Death to the Boer, death to the farmer. It's all swinging back the wrong way. But anyway, Albo, not high on the priority list of Donald Trump, but interesting to find out that his opposite number here in Australia, this woman, Susan Ley, was high on the list of we must have a conversation with the Israeli foreign minister. So she had a great chat with him last night. Now, I wonder what that was all about. And I bet she didn't mention these figures. Now, it appears from, look, and I take these surveys with a pinch of shit, but for this kind of survey, I actually think they're probably going to get reasonable data because people are going to be quite happy to say, I'm not going to follow the Liberal Party while this ridiculous person leads them. And it does appear to be the case that Susan Ley is failing badly. Women are leaving the Liberal Party. Men are leaving the Liberal Party. Men from 18 to 40 are leaving the Liberal Party in droves. Her disapproval rating is the lowest of any Liberal leader, I think, in the history of figures. And nobody saw her coming out in the leadership battle as anything other than a bit of filler in the lead up to who was going to be the actual leader. Instead, somewhere or other, she managed to get a bit of power, and she comes out of Western Australia, I think, this one. So she's under a bit of pressure, and now getting a lot of pressure from Israel, I suspect. They'll be wanting to find out her position on Palestine, and that will then dictate how much Israeli or Jewish support the Liberal Party are going to get going forward when they think they're going to be able to go for a new election. Her response will be directly attributable to what happens to her next. And already there is movement at the station to get her replaced. There is a fellow in the Liberal Party who has been touted as leadership material pretty much from the day he gets in there. He's touted as a hero. He's touted as an Australian ex-serviceman who has done wonderful things for his country and just likes to serve. His name is Andrew Hastie, and I've got to admit I was pretty enamored with him too when he first came on the scene. I've since learned a lot about Andrew Hastie. One of the things that you might want to learn about Andrew Hastie is that he was the whistleblower. Andrew Hastie was the whistleblower in the Ben Roberts-Smith ABC reports and the Nick McKenzie stuff. Turns out he and Nick McKenzie have been great mates for many, 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 many years. And by the sound of it, while he was even in uniform, he was liaising with media, which brings into question what was his role? Was his role to feed the media bullshit or to work the media, to develop those relationships? Why would because Hastie was an SAS operative. Now, part of the thing that happened with Ben Roberts-Smith and continues to happen with Ben Roberts-Smith is all to do with jealousy. There have been a lot of stories about Ben Roberts-Smith, and I'm not going to go into the wherefores and whys, the truths or the misnomers about them. What I do know is that war is war, and there is a code that fighting men live by. And Andrew Hastie, for political purposes, has broken that code. Now, that shows me he is a man that lacks honour. Now, you could say, oh, well, he's got the honour to come forward and speak shit about Ben Roberts-Smith. Well, yes and no. He had the honour to come forward and do it anonymously, quietly, protectedly. He had the honour to do it hiding in the background and was able to add to his story as required. using that anonymity, I find that just a bit off. It's not the kind of thing I would expect from a leader in our special forces. But as we know, there are politicians in our uniforms, people who go out and are thinking of their broader career afterwards. And Hastie wouldn't be the first one. We all know, I think we can think of another one. But these professional soldiers start making political decisions to enhance themselves. And I don't consider that. We haven't got to the bottom of what happened to Ben Roberts-Smith, not by a long way. And it did happen to him, right? These jealous individuals of sometimes much higher rank than the lowly corporal that Ben Roberts-Smith was were extremely jealous that they had to salute him every time he came into the room. Now, there is a lot of talk about arrogance. There is a lot of talk about bravado. There's a lot of talk about cruelty and, no compassion. Well, I've known a lot of these operators, and particularly when they go into a place like Afghanistan, and I can tell you that in Afghanistan, our Australian government was feeding our fighting men and women all sorts of interesting pills to keep them going, to keep them awake, to keep them focused, to keep them strong. All sorts of interesting pills. In fact, our battlefields of the world are some of the best testing grounds for those sorts of medications, and have been for years and years and years. A lot of these people come back with certain addictions. A lot of them come back with certain medical problems for the rest of their life because their bodies have fought back or have just gone too hard too long and now can't recover. So our military has been responsible, and I dare say is still going to be responsible, for that sort of crap as long as we allow it. Now, speaking of allowing things, I was talking earlier about Beck Freedom, and Beck's got another rally coming up, I think, on the 19th of October. Oh God. There is another Save Australia rally. I don't know when that's coming up. Then there is another rally for some other mob that's coming up. And then in November, Monica has got one happening as well. And that's going to be a global rally. So we'll be able to fleece the whole world. Are we getting a bit of march fatigue, folks? Everybody has to come up with a march. Everybody's is going to be better than everybody else's. We haven't learned that unity is the only thing that is going to work. Everybody's got to have their own little march so everybody can have their little bit of control. Get over it, folks. We've got to come together. We've got to come together. And for those of you that would argue that, Beck Freedom's March is pushing the Nazi thing, well, I would argue that Beck Freedom's March attracted more people across Australia on the 31st of August than the Unite Australia Against Government Corruption rally a couple of weeks later on the 13th. The aggregate numbers across Australia do not lie. The March for Australia numbers were big six-figure numbers across the nation. That means over 500,000 of you got out and started wandering around waving whatever flag you felt the urge to take, and you got behind the message of marching for Australia, not marching for Nazis, not marching for any particular group, not marching for any particular politician or political party, just marching for the way of life that you me, the person beside you, and hopefully the one across the road grew up with. It is the reason that many of these people who've immigrated to this country came to this country to have what we have. And God knows millions of them have assimilated, and I hate that word, it always makes me think of the Borg, but they have assimilated into our Western Christian democracy. But now that Western Christian democracy is being thrown out of balance. The whole demographic of the nation is changing, and it is being changed deliberately by a freaky little man who has less than 30% of the nation's support to keep him in a job. There's got to be some logic here, folks. It's a bit like the climate change dimming argument, right? It's that sort of obvious. They're flying, spraying, dimming the clouds so we get less sunlight, and they are they're making us pay more for solar. They are driving us to it when they know damn well there's going to be less sunlight if the dimming is successful. And it is successful. I know. I've lived off-grid, reliant on batteries and solar, for a year on the Gold Coast in Queensland. You wouldn't think there'd be too much of a hassle with sunlight. But I can tell you, they get us. They get us good. And they get you too. It has to stop. Now, France is stepping up. Nepal is stepping up. Indonesia is stepping up. There are a number of countries. All, except for France, although some could argue, all significantly less economically sound than we are. All right, the likes of the Nepalese, the likes of the Indonesians, they've lived with a level of poverty that you and I have never experienced unless we've gone and visited them. And for them to stand up and say, enough, it's got to be bad. So what's our level of bad? What's our level of enough? And when we reach that level of enough, do you think we'll all come together under one banner and march for that? Will it just be a march that we all go home to, or will it be a march where we occupy, where we stay, and we do not leave until change is made? Because that's what it's going to take. Commitment from you, commitment from me, commitment from anybody doing this kind of thing. And I know they're all going to say, yeah, I'm committed to that. I don't know that they will be committed to that. Certainly some of them will go along to report that. Some of them will go along to gain a few more followers. Oh, speaking of which, I saw a piece today from John, God love him, Wilson, urging people to join the Freedom Union. $400 it'll cost you. Apparently he has 1,000 members. That's $400,000 he's got. Bear that figure in mind, and over the next 12 months, let's see what he does with it. That benefits us going forward. But anyway, he's asking you, more of you, to join the Freedom Union. You'll be pleased to know that it costs him $100,000 a year to run the union. I'm not sure how much of that is his wage, but that's what it costs, $100,000 a year to run the union. And he has a plan that he can tell you all how you don't have to pay taxes to the ATO. Just all you got to do is join up to be a member. $400 to be a member of the union. And John's plan is that he's going to give you information that has been openly available to anybody who cared to ask or find it for the last 3 or 4 years. But that's a reason you should sign up and give away $400 so that you can learn how not to pay your taxes, or learn that the tax department doesn't exist. I think we've covered that pretty strongly on this program. If you are paying your taxes, you're doing it for your own reasons. And certainly if you are not earning much money, then they don't care that you don't pay your taxes because you're not paying enough for them to be bothered with. They go after the people who are earning lots of money and aren't paying their taxes. So having said that, I'm sure they'll come around to those of us that are, shall we say, a few years deficient in our tax returns. But like I say, if you're not earning anything, you can't be paying tax on it. It's that simple. And for people like me, although I don't know, I think I'm probably reasonably unique. I refuse to take anything from the government. So I will not go and get the dole or sign up to MyGov, get a finger up my clacker, and have to dance around on the end of their fingertip every time they say, oh, wiggle. I refuse to do that. I will not. I'll die. I'll starve on the bloody streets before that happens. So I choose not to interact with them in any way, shape, or form, and I urge you to do the same. But if you felt that you needed some advice on how not to pay tax to the tax department, that advice is freely available. You don't have to spend $400 and join John's Union to make that happen. And I don't know if there are 1,000 people signed up to the union, and I heard that Western Sydney was pretty strong for sign-ups for the union. Why is it nobody turned up in Sydney a couple of weeks ago for the union when they needed it? So, and the videos that are being put out by John are not being seen by anyone. They're not getting viewed at all. So the only videos of John that are being seen by anyone are the ones that interviews that he's done with the like of Chris Goverys, where he's tried to put his propaganda forward and save a bit of face after what happened in Sydney a couple of weeks ago. Just a mess. Although, as we are all aware, John puts it best himself.
And what a clustered fuck this is.
Yeah. So, still more going on there. Watch this space, but I'd be careful about sending too much money towards it because it's still unclear where that money is actually going. There are a couple of things I would like to show you before I leave tonight. These are very sexy looking sheep. And I say that in a very Australian way, not a Kiwi way. Now, why are we looking at these very good looking sheep? Well, because there is a very good looking young man who turned that wool into that bale. And that is Pete from Pinaroo's young bloke who Pete from Pinaroo's sheep, all 15 of them. No, not a big sheep farmer, I admit, but growing. Very nice fibre for those of you that are interested. I think they're merinos. I could be wrong. So good on you, Will. Good effort there, mate. And keep the old man off the shears. He's got shaky hands. You know how that works. I'm being a bit rude. There was one other thing I wanted to show you. Oh, yes. Now look at the headlines that Albanese is getting around the country here at the moment. The level of bad publicity and outright disgust, I think, that is being leveled towards the Albanese government is something I've not seen before. And it demonstrates to me a bit of a change in the media rhetoric. It's not happening everywhere. News.com.au is still about the most far left. God, the shit that they write. In fact, I don't even think there is a living human working at news.com.au. I think it's all AI generated because it's so badly spelled. It's so badly edited. Well, I don't think they do edit it. That's what, see, people used to be employed in print media jobs. They would work their way up and someday you'd become a sub-editor, which would mean that you'd get to go and read somebody's copy and fix it. Go through and fix all the grammatical errors or the words that were wrong, and then hand it back to them and say, rewrite it or do whatever you got to do, and then give it to the editor, who would go through and do the whole thing again. Nowadays, we have AI to do it, and AI can't spell for shit. I don't know how many times I've used Chat GPT to say, "Oh, do me a poster for tonight's show." Have it say "Voice of Freedom" and yada 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 yada, and it always leaves a word out. Always leaves something out to set them off. You've got to have like 15 goes before you get it right, and I'm sure that's just a way of it getting to, try and learn what it is that we're doing. But yeah. God, I've just clicked back on the chat here and I found headless body in a topless bar. That's very weird. All right. Yeah, uses USA English as well. I have noticed that on new computers now there is an Australian English you can choose. Not that I've got a new computer, but somebody was telling me about it the other day. All right. So, folks, I'm going to love you and leave you. Don't forget, of course, if you are looking for a little bit of silver, we still have some of these available. Silver Fox is in the room tonight. I don't know how many he's printing, but we are very much looking forward to his spectacular holders, these being the ones in question. Looking forward to them turning up and being able to fulfill a few more orders. And if you would like a Byron Bob holder, the Voice of Freedom Byron Bob holder, with an ounce of Byron Bobs in them, all you got to do is email me, carl@vofhq.com. Now, at the moment, the way that the price is going up on these things, we're going to have to put the price up again. But at the moment, they're $125 with $100 worth of silver in them, essentially. These 1/10 rounds are currently, I'll just bring it up and it'll tell me. They're currently $9.74 each, so nearly $10 each. So there's $100 worth of silver basically in these packs, and it's only going to go up. And we need to cover a little bit of postage and plastic. So these ones will be at 125, but bear in mind they may go up again if you decide not to order until next week and the price for silver is $80. You can be guaranteed we won't be selling them for 125. So if you'd like a little bit of memorabilia, a little bit of history, something to remember the Voice of Freedom by, it makes an interesting Christmas gift for those folks that you like, then by all means reach out, carl@vofhq.com, and I will sign you up for one. I've got, in fact, I think there should be some waiting for me. Vince's should be waiting for me at the post office tomorrow. So we should do okay and be able to send out a few more, including Sunflower. I will have yours ready to go and a couple of others. So we will see how all that goes. Might have to take a drive up to the Sunshine Coast and deliver things. I'm just having a bit of a glance through your chats. Tony, you're a legend. Tony's silver turned up, but he also got a shirt, a Voice of Freedom crew shirt, because he did such a spectacular job for us at the event in Melbourne, where he basically live streamed for me for hours, 3.5 hours or more. So couldn't have been able to get a feed, or wouldn't have got a good feed out of Melbourne without him. So legend of a human being, Tony. So thanks, mate. Pleased to have you as part of the show, and now definitely part of the Voice of Freedom stringer team. I'm going to get shirts made up for that. I'll need to talk to Vince about it. But if you'd like to be a stringer, it's very easy. All you've got to do is have a camera and probably a tripod, make it a bit easier, and the ability to get internet on your phone, get your pictures from whatever camera you've got. Maybe it's just your camera on your phone, like I think Tony's is. Maybe you've got something different. But, yeah, wherever you are, whatever city you're in, very keen to put a little list together of people over the country who wouldn't mind being involved in taking a few videos for us if the opportunity presents itself. So, once again, email me, or you can email Vince for that too. Carl or Vince at vofhq.com. All right. Mr. Bill has asked a great question. What happens the day when you go cash out your metal and they put money in your bank account? Anyone know the dealers that would pay cash? You ask a very good question. I would be, just between you, me, and the gatepost, I would have a bank of things like the Byron Bob. We've got a 1/10, a half ounce, and a 1 ounce round. So with that, you have the ability to buy stuff, and you'll find that the price will meet what you've got. So if one of these 1/10 rounds is worth at the moment $9.70 or $9.75 or whatever it was, in theory, it could be argued that it's worth $10, and that the person who takes that from you in exchange for a good or service is banking on the price of silver going up and it increasing in value in their pocket without them having to trade it back out to somebody else. Now, I know in Byron Bay there are a lot of shops that do use the Byron Bobs. That's why they're called Byron Bobs. You can get anything from a meal to a night out to a cup of coffee by using silver, paying in silver. That's because it's always been able to be used as an agreed value thing. Now, if you're going to get antsy and say, "Oh well, my 1 ounce silver coin on the Ainsley website says right now it's worth $72 something," I'm looking at half ounce, $73.17. So you say, "I want $73.17 worth of value for it." Well, you're probably pushing shit uphill a little bit. $70 worth of value, absolutely. And there's your tip, $3.17. You're already up on the game. And the nice thing about this for any vendor is that while they might pay cash out to buy the goods they're going to on-sell to you, when you pay it, the way you pay it in that silver appreciates in their pocket. It doesn't lose money like the plastic note would or devalue like the plastic note would if you paid it that way instead. So it doesn't answer your question. I would just say that if you've got something like these Byron Bobs, and look, they come in a beautiful, like 40 of them come in a little tube that's this big, and you can have that comfortably on you. It's no big deal to carry around. It's no huge weight. It's only 4 ounces at the end of the day. But given the way that 4 ounces is currently going to be priced, you're got some good spending power in smaller denomination silver, is I think what I've been trying to get at in a very long-winded way. So I apologize. I think that's where it'll come in useful. And look, if you've got a kilo bar and a sharp knife, you can always cut a few slivers off, weigh it up, go back to the old scale days. But yeah, at the moment, I think if you were to go and cash it in, you would get cash in hand, or you could cash it into crypto. And I would say that crypto in the future is probably where most people would have it go. We are facing a digital ID'd society. We are facing the reality of a form of digital currency, and the gateway to that is digital ID. We must resist it. If we can't resist it, we are done. But digital ID is key to what they want to do to us, because from there it will go exponential. So resist digital ID. Vietnamese money. Well, 86 million Vietnamese bank accounts frozen, I think, last Friday. 86 million people who said, we will not comply with whatever order the government put out. So the government said, right, you don't want to play, we will unplug your banks. And that's exactly what they did. keep pushing, folks. The next one you see on the news will be Vietnam, because when 86 million people, and while there are a few 100 million in Vietnam, when 86 million people all of a sudden go hungry, and while they do have a very community spirit over there, nobody will go hungry, the actions of the government are not going to go down very well at all. And very shortly, you'll find the military will be affected as well. And that's when things in Vietnam will start pushing back. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting time. And if you think it's not going to happen here in Australia, you'll be very, very sadly mistaken. Already they are moving towards restricting us, maneuvering us, and wedging us so that we must comply. Resist, 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 folks. Resist, resist, resist. All right, I'm going to wrap it up tonight. You have yourselves a good one. We are going to have a chat tomorrow night, I hope, with someone a little special. Fingers crossed. I'm not going to announce who it is just in case it falls through. We'll see what happens. It should be an interesting chat. Also, there are some noises about what Friday night's show is going to be about. I think last Friday there were a lot of questions. Vince was able to get through quite a lot of questions, and I've had a few more personal ones fired at me through the email. Thank you. I have answered some of those. Some of those I will not answer. Some of them require a photo, and I'm not sending it. So go away. Look out for the dickheads on the road, folks. Be safe. Bye.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up.
Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life.
It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back.
Does anybody else want to stay?
Let's rock!